Hello, hello. It is Zach again, and again, I'm an engineer here at Flox, and today we're going to talk about how to kind of customize your activations using hooks and environment variables. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to get a kind of conceptual understanding of how activation works, and then we're going to dive into doing the actual customization. So we're going to come over to the Flox docs website. So this is flox.dev/docs. And we're going to come over to the concept section and activating environments. And next we're going to go to timeline. So we're going to look at this diagram here, but we're not going to do it in excruciating detail because it's kind of technical. And you don't necessarily need to understand all of these details. I just want you to have kind of, like I said, a conceptual understanding of what's happening so you know why you do certain things. So when you call Flox activate, your shell creates a new process. And in that process, we do our Flox stuff. And as part of that, we start a bash shell so we can start setting up your shell. So as part of that, we run our own setup scripts. And then the part that we want you to care about is here. So first we set your user variables. So these are the variables defined in the Vars section of your manifest. And then next, we source the hook.onActivate script. And then at some point, we call exec on your shell. So we go from running a bash shell to whatever your shell is. In my case, that would be fish. And then we source the profile scripts. So that tells us the order in which things need to happen. So again, first we set your variables, then we run hook.onActivate, and then finally we run your profile scripts. So that's why when you set variables in Vars, they can be used in both hook.onActivate and in your profile scripts. So hopefully that gives you a very brief understanding of what's happening there. Let's go over to the manifest and make some edits. Like I said, we're going to come over to the terminal and make some edits to our manifest. So let's create an environment with Flox init. And we're going to jump right into Flox edit. So let's come down to our Vars section and let's delete a bunch of stuff here just to make it a little bit nicer to look at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set some variables in this Vars section. Then I'm going to use them in both hook and profile. And I'm also going to use the hook section to create my own environment variables that are then inherited by profile, so I can use them there as well. So let's start out by saying name equals, I don't need my name to be in all caps. We're going to say name equals Zach. We're going to say port equals 8080. So actually, yeah, we're going to do this. Let's save that so it builds. And we're going to Flox activate because I want to show you what it looks like to make these edits while you're activated. So echo name Zach. Cool. So you see my variables are set as expected. So let's clear that. Now let's make another edit. So most of the time, so if you install a package or uninstall a package, that is done for you automatically, like it's automatically removed while you're activated. But when it comes to making edits to variables and hooks, those can't be updated for you in your shell. So you need to reactivate in order for those to take effect. So if I say, let's change this to 8081, and we're going to save this. So you're going to see we get a message saying that my manifest has changes that cannot be applied automatically. And so all that's saying is that I need to reactivate. So if I do echo port, you'll see that it's still set to 8080. And again, that's because we can't update those for you automatically. That's just how shells work. What we're going to do is we are going to exit, Flox activate. Now if I echo port, you'll see that it's updated. Easy peasy. So now let's go back to Flox edit. We're going to write a hook for ourselves. So let's do something really simple. We're going to say like hello name. And so you can see we're going to use variables that we set up here. So basically, as you go down through Vars, hook, and act and profile, anything that you set in the previous section can be used in the one that comes after it. So we're going to say hello name, and then we're also going to create a new variable called server URL. So we're going to say server URL equals HTTPS localhost port. And so this is gonna give us a new variable that we can then use in the profile section. We can also do something like make dir, let's call it my data dir, as if we were going to store some like data files in there or something like that. So let's save this. And again, it says in order for this to take effect, you need to reactivate. So let's exit and activate again. We see we get our greeting, and now you see I have a my data dir here because it was created by my hook. And again, if I say echo server URL, it's localhost 8081 because echo, come on, got fat fingers over here, port is 8081. So hopefully that's all making sense. Let's go back to edit, and now we're gonna do some stuff in the profile section. So the profile section has one entry called common, and then there's one entry for each shell that we support. So we support fish, Z shell, bash, and TC shell. So this common section is supposed to be written in kind of common denominator shell dialect. So basically don't do anything that requires shell specific syntax. So we're going to say common equals, we're going to create a new directory. So we're going to say make dir my data dir slash some data. So that's going to create a new directory for me. Then I'm not going to really do much else there. And then I'm going to do fish because I, again, am an enlightened fish user. Fish is the superior shell, and I will fight you about that. So here I'm going to say, let's say the server can be reached. That's too verbose. Let's just say server URL. So now let's save this. And again, we need to reactivate. So we're going to exit, Flox activate. My data dir. So we'll come back to that. So we get our greeting, we get an error that I should have foreseen. And then we have our thing saying that the server is at some URL. So if we go back to our manifest, I'll explain this error. So onActivate creates this directory, but this make dir command is going to run every time I activate. And so last time I ran this, it created the directory. This time when I ran it, that directory already existed. So what you need to do in these is write your scripts in a way such that they're idempotent. And what that means is just a long word for the result is the same at the end each time. And so I should be able to rerun it and get no errors. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if not directory my data dir. I hope this is the right bash syntax. We're just going to put this here so that it will run only the first time that that directory is there, or it will only run one time when the directory is not there. So let's save this. We're going to delete my data dir. and exit, and we're going to hope that I got it right. And so we see my datadir exists, and my datadir has some data inside of it. So now if I exit and run this a second time, I should see the same thing. I shouldn't get an error if I did it right. I did not do it right. The issue here is that I didn't do that same conditional logic in my profile section. So let's go take care of that. So because if statements are not the same in both bash, Z shell, and fish, bash and Z shell are basically the same, fish is different. TC shell is its own thing. We can't do this in common. Well, I can, because I'm only ever using this in fish. But if I was using this environment with other people who use different shells, that would be an issue. So we're going to get rid of the common section and do my conditional logic just in the fish part. So we're going to say if in fish you say test -d my data dir / some data, and then we say end. This needs to be a not. Having trouble concentrating because I hear my cats fighting in the next room. So make dir, we're going to say my data dir / some data. And hopefully that works. So we're going to exit the environment, delete my data dir. We're going to activate, and we're going to exit, and we're going to activate again, and it worked. I did it. We got there, folks. Hopefully that all makes sense to you. Hooks and vars and the profile section are all really powerful and basically allow you to perform arbitrary setup when your environment is activated. And so you can do all kinds of crazy stuff there. You can use tools like Gum to prompt the user in those sections and do some pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, that's where I'll leave things today. Thanks for checking out Flox, and I will see you next time.